Hey girl, real quick. I'm so excited about the new habit-based fitness app I just launched, and I want to invite you to come check it out because I know it will finally help you stay consistent and see and feel results. The programming was created with you in mind. Come get a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app at trainingforlifeapp.com. I can't wait to see you in there. Okay, let's get into the show. Hey girl, do you wish you could make your healthy habits stick, but life keeps getting in the way? Are you tired of diet culture telling you to shrink yourself when you'd rather just find true food freedom, move your body for joy, and feel and look good in your favorite leggings? Then you're in the right place. Think of this as Atomic Habits for women. Hey, I'm Emily Nichols, habit and fitness coach, millennial mom, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. I'm here to tell you there is an easier way than what we've been taught about health and our habits. How do I know? Because I've gone from former chronic dieter to habit hacker through the power of the system that I'm now going to teach you so you can finally stop dieting and just train for life via your habits. Remember, it's not your fault your healthy habits haven't stuck. We just have to do them differently. Are you ready to habit hack your health? Then let's do this. You're listening to episode 276 of Habit Hack Your Health. Hey girl, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like you lack willpower? For example, you wish you could resist a certain food group like cookies. For me, I love chocolate chip cookies, or we just are in the holiday season where you're strolling down the grocery aisle and you see those little, are they little Debbie's, like the Christmas tree cakes, the white Christmas tree cakes? Like, I don't know what it is. Those just have like a strong hold on me. But you just feel like you don't have the willpower to resist, right? Or you wish you could work out every day, but you just lack the motivation because you're super exhausted. Or you wish you just had the willpower to stop talking so negatively about yourself. Like, I feel like I could answer yes to all of these for sure. Well, let's start with the basics and then we'll habit hack this together with our guests today. First, what is willpower? Let's just get to the basics. Willpower is the ability to resist short-term temptations to achieve long-term goals. It's also known as determination, self-control, self-regulation, and impulse control. Psychologists define willpower more specifically as the ability to delay gratification, the capacity to override unwanted thoughts, feelings, or impulses, the ability to use a cool cognitive system of behavior rather than a hot emotional system, conscious, effortful regulation of the self by the self, and a limited resource capable of being depleted. Ooh, I think that last bullet point really hits it for us moms, right? Girl, we are depleted. Some experts believe that willpower is like a limited resource and it decreases with overuse. Similar to like gas in your car, right? We're kind of running on fumes. We're running on E, right? We are making so many decisions throughout the day, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. And our willpower has been depleted. So it's not that you don't have willpower. You just don't have any left when you're hangry and exhausted. And the easier decision is to skip your workout or hit the drive-thru. You're literally fighting against physiological human nature. You're not failing. You are not failing. Again, we as women, we just have to do things a little differently. So today we're going to habit hack your willpower and replenish it so it's easier to make healthier decisions for yourself with our friend Jenn Trepeck of Salad with a side of fries. Yes, you heard me right. So Jenn has been described as a force of nature in the wellness space. She is an optimal health coach, podcaster, and business consultant. Jenn grew up the skinny one in her family of dieters, which was awesome until it went away. And so began her weight management saga. Ultimately, though, Jenn learned that nutrition education that we're all supposed to know, but no one ever taught us. This completely changed her life and allowed her to say that she kicked her food issues. And from then, Jenn has set out on a mission to pay it forward and help people help themselves. Love that. After a decade of working with clients, she started her podcast, Salad with a Side of Fries. This is based on science yet lightheartedness. Jenn talks about living life while still making ourselves and our health a priority. Yes, she prescribes to that training for life mentality as well. And I know you're going to really love hearing from Jenn and this conversation because she leads with the facts, the science behind willpower, but she's also going to give us some hope and some habit hacks to help you find your own willpower and replenish it as well. Now, as always, make sure to stay to the end of the episode. I'll share my 3 biggest takeaways for you in order to take action. I just don't want you listening. I want you taking action. So let's go replenish our willpower with Jenn Trepeck. Okay, friends, thank you so much again for tuning in to Habit Hack Your Health. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation with Jenn Trepeck of Salad with a Side of Fries. Oh my gosh, you're my kind of girl, Jenn. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Emily. I'm so glad to be here.
Now, do you prefer regular fries or waffle fries or sweet potato fries or
So,
just
great question. Favorite fry of all time is a well done steak fry.
Mm-hmm.
But like regularly, I'm probably ordering sweet potato fries.
Same. I love sweet potato, like a sweet potato waffle fried, like sends me over the edge. I love it so
Oh
much.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
I
that was
know.
an important question. That was a very,
But
very
I
important.
think I have a theory. This is like my theory, not
Yeah,
science, but like your choice fry says something about you. I don't exactly know what it is, but I hear it a lot.
I imagine that too. Yeah, I'm just thinking of my boys. Like one likes like the shoestring fries, one wants like big fat French fry. Okay, this says all. I think that we need to do some more research on this.
Right.
For sure,
Yes.
for sure. Well, Jenn, the first question, other than the French fry question, I ask every guest is what is your favorite habit hack? Like what is saving your life right now?
Okay, I have two because I just couldn't decide between them. So the first one is within 30 minutes of waking up, I have 30 grams of protein. It
Mm,
has been a total game changer for mood, energy, blood sugar, cravings, hunger, all the things.
mm,
So that's been amazing. And the second one is I am no longer using to-do lists.
mm,
And what I'm doing instead is blocking time in the calendar for the task. So
mm,
instead of putting something on a list, it goes directly into the calendar with a time slot for when it's going to happen.
mm, mhm.
And so certain things I can move it. Like if I need to add to that just a note of like the deadline so that as I move it around, I know, kind of where I'm at.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
can move something. I don't delete anything. Um, but it ensures that number one, everything gets done. And number two, I don't have to like constantly have this thing next to me to reference or figure out in any moment what I'm doing next.
Gosh, that seems so freeing too. I love time blocking like in themes and color codes just so I can visually see it. But then it feels freeing where it's like, well, if I don't get it done, I can just boop move it around here, kind of like a little puzzle piece too. I like that.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
Genius, genius.
Game changer.
I love it. I love it. Let's do away with to-do lists. We got too many other things to do than mess around with the to-do list, right?
Exactly.
Well, Jen, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Like what has really led to who you are and what you do today?
Yeah. So I'm a health coach and I come to this whole health, wellness, lifestyle coaching from I call it a saga. I feel like the word journey doesn't do it justice. Like this was a saga, and it was a saga of um, weight management, health, trying to figure this out for myself. And I was a dancer growing up. I joke that I was like the skinny one growing up, and everybody around me was always on a diet. So I grew up around diet culture and every fad out there. And I sort of joke that like there isn't a diet out there that I haven't done, my family hasn't done, or we don't know somebody who's done it. But with that, even though I didn't necessarily have a quote unquote problem until like between high school and college, I pretty much ate according to whatever diet everybody was on at the time. You know what I mean? Because that's what the food was in the house. So fast forward, I graduated from college and moved to New York. I went to the business school at the University of Michigan, moved to New York afterwards. And I'm going to the gym all the time. I'm trying every diet. I'm doing all the things. And even the things that felt like they were working were still very frustrating. It felt like I had this constant conversation in my head of what did I eat? What am I going to eat? You know, how are my clothes going to fit? Like all of the things. There was just so much noise. But I thought that that's normal, that that's just what it is, you know, that this is what I had to live with for the rest of my life. Now, I have a full-time job, I'm working, but a couple months in, I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I just know I'm not going to work for somebody else for forever. And I was looking to think for things to do in my spare time with the intention of taking that money and investing it or doing something so that I could retire early or not have to work for somebody else. In that process of looking for things for like a side hustle, before side hustles were a thing, but side hustle, I learned about this curriculum that I've based my practice on. And at first, I was like, no, 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 that's okay. I don't need that. I don't need whatever you have, right? I thought I had the answer. It was that crazy roller coaster, but I thought I knew all there was to know, right? And then I saw people who were following this program. And I noticed two things. So the first thing I noticed was that they were keeping the weight off. And the second thing was this woman telling her story of removing like 150 pounds. And admittedly, I don't know anything she said after that because I was having a conversation with myself, like staring at her, like totally tuned out, whatever was going on. And I'm looking at this woman who's telling me that the equivalent of another human was attached to her. But in looking at her, I was like, I don't see where 10 pounds could have been on your body, you know? And so I had this moment with myself that was like, Jennifer, they know something you don't know. Because with what you know, that doesn't make any sense. And so I worked with a coach. I followed the program, completely changed my life. Like the only thing that allowed me to say I'd kick my food issues. And so from there, I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. Like I felt like it was the nutrition education everyone's supposed to know and no one ever taught us. And so I was like, everyone deserves this. This is what I'm going to do in my spare time and eventually work for myself. So that's what happened. I became a health coach on the side of my full-time job. I built my practice from 2007 to 2019 as a side hustle. So I'm very familiar with lots going on in your world, you know. July of 2019, I left my full-time job, launched my podcast, Salad with a Side of Fries, in August of 2019. And now here we are, 5 years later, so changing thousands and thousands of people's lives because we've all been led astray with the information that we've been fed. No pun intended.
Right, exactly. And thank you for sharing that because I think so many women can relate where we've just been like, man, I've just tried every diet or I'm just doing whatever mom was doing or whatever my friends were doing. And it really kind of messes up our relationship with food for the long term. And it takes a really long time to unravel that. And when you finally unravel that and find something that works for you that doesn't feel like you're dieting, that feels like you're just fueling your
Living life.
you're fueling your body, you're fueling your soul too. You're not restrictive. That's when it all comes together. And I feel like that's when you have not just the physical transformation, but the mental transformation as well, right?
1,000%.
Mm.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
good. So good. Well, and so many of us are listening and they're like, okay, what was this secret sauce, this secret program that you started following? But I was kind of taking a step back from there. I think regardless of whatever type of protocol someone is following, you have to be in the right mindset to stick with it in order for it to be sustainable, in order for you to see those results. And I think a lot of times there's a big myth around willpower and motivation. And we're just white knuckling our way through a diet and like starving ourselves waiting to get to day 30 where we can finally have like a taco and margarita again or some ice cream. And that's just not living life. So I want to explore willpower a little bit more with you, Jenn. And, many of my listeners are just relying on willpower, which is why they come here because they're like, we need some habit strategy to
We need
actually
systems. We
do it.
need
We
something.
need a
Yes.
system. Yes.
Yes.
So let's start with the basics. We'll talk about some steps to kind of unravel willpower as well, and some steps to get started as well. So, like, what is actually willpower? Let's just start with the basics of like the science behind willpower.
Yeah. So fundamentally, willpower is self-control. Period. We can make it into a whole lot of other things, right? Anytime we require self-control, it depletes our willpower. So the world will tell you willpower is a finite resource. I believe it is a replenishable resource. What we have to know is what drink, like, think of willpower like a cup that you have in your brain somewhere, right? We have to understand what drinks from that cup and what replenishes the cup in order to have willpower when we need it. Because I will tell you, it is not that you don't have willpower. It is that we're using it in all these other places that there isn't any left for that moment when we're driving past Dunkin' Donuts. And then all of a sudden the car is steering itself into the parking lot, right?
You're like, how did I get here?
Right. So anytime we're using self-control, so that could be looking at your to-do list and deciding what task you're going to do. It's also, higher order thinking, right? Delayed gratification, all of those things drink from our willpower. Multitasking drinks from our willpower. Any decision making that we have to do drinks from our willpower. So if you think about a typical day, and in the morning, you're waking up and deciding what you're putting on, what your kids are putting on, what everybody's having for breakfast, what is in lunches, right? If you work at for somebody else, or you have a career or a business, you're also making probably 8 bajillion decisions in a day. Scientific number there, right? So all of those decisions are drinking from our willpower. So it's no wonder that breakfast is an easier meal to have, quote unquote, on plan than dinner and after dinner when we are completely depleted without doing anything to replenish that cup.
I'm just nodding my head because I know everyone listening is going, uh-huh, uh-huh. That makes so much more sense because we are so depleted. I read somewhere that we make like 35,000 decisions in a day. And I would assume it's probably more for moms because it's not just like what you're doing. It's for work. It's for your kids. Right. It's the laundry, the dishes, all the other things. Yeah.
And even in that, it's the subconscious decisions that we don't even realize we're making. Yeah. So if you are driving to work and you notice, because there's something, I can't remember what percentage of those, because I've heard the same thing of like the 35,000 or whatever it is. And I can't remember how many of those are food decisions, but it's like a lot of them. But it's even considered a food decision if you are driving and you see a billboard or an advertisement for a place that serves food. To not stop is like a subconscious food decision. It's everywhere.
That's really interesting. If we were to sit back and think about how many food decisions do I make in a day? How many decisions do I make to exercise today or to work on my mindset, where you already have some of these unconscious habits or behaviors that don't take up a lot of that willpower. It's not pouring from that cup. You don't have to think about it.
Right.
Whereas, like you said, later in the day, you're more depleted and you're like, oh, man, it's just gonna be a lot easier to go through the
I got
dark
nothing
night.
left. Right.
I have nothing. Like I know working out gives me energy, but I'm so depleted. I just need to sit on the couch. And I
Yep.
get that, right?
Exactly. So a couple other things
Mhm.
that will drink from our willpower. And this is my favorite one when it comes to food things, low blood sugar. So how many of us have been told eat less, move more to make the scale go down, right? And then we end up ravenous because our blood sugar is low. And then it's like, remember the old Garfield like cartoon where he would just like open his mouth and like all the food went in, right? That's what happens. When we have low blood sugar, right? Our capacity to have any control and self-control is dramatically diminished. So my favorite study on this, they looked at like prisoners, I guess, like people who are in jail who were appearing in court for parole. And they looked at the time of day their hearing was and what happened. So judges with low blood sugar. So basically, if you were appearing just before lunch or towards the end of the day, prisoners receive parole 65 to 70% of the time. Those who appeared, I'm sorry, I just messed this up. Those who appeared late, like just before lunch or late in the day, receive parole less than 10% of the time. Those who appeared in the morning or just after lunch receive parole 65 to 70% of the time. Because when we have low blood sugar, essentially what takes over is maintaining the status quo, right? It's anything we can do to create underlying personal safety, which translates into no parole, put the prisoner back in jail, right? In our lives, it looks like the old eating habits, the less nutritious choices, because it's what feels safe, what feels comforting. How can I know I'm going to survive? So low blood sugar dramatically depletes willpower.
I mean, being hangry is a real thing, and you make rash
Yes.
decisions. You make rash decisions about that when you're so depleted. So that's really good. So it's not just,
Yep.
like, oh, mentally my cup's depleted. Like, no, you are like physically depleted. You're not thinking clearly. Your blood sugar's low. You're physically exhausted. You're going to pick the easier thing for you because it's less
Yes.
decision fatigue
And
as
it's
well.
and recognize that that is physiological
Yeah.
human nature. It is not a moral failing, right?
Right.
Like it would be climbing Mount Everest naked and barefoot to make a different choice in that moment,
Yeah.
you know? And then sleep is another
Mm.
master. So when people say that willpower is a finite resource, it's because all the conventional research says the only way to replenish willpower is a night of sleep. That in the morning, we wake up with this full cup if we've slept well. And then by the end of the day, it's empty. So if we're not sleeping well or long enough, it's almost like having a smaller cup with less in it.
Mhm. Ladies, I really want you to hear what Jen's saying. This sleep keeps coming up so much on the show with guests because we aren't sleeping well. We're stressed out. We're holding on to the emotions of our kids, and it's just trickling in throughout the day. And you might be feeling frustrated with yourself to be like, well, I have no willpower to eat healthy. I just have no willpower to stick to a consistent workout routine. And give yourself a little grace here. There's some physiological
Exactly.
things,
some emotional things going on where we can kind of habit hack that together. But if you're thinking, okay, you're listening to this, okay, and you're like, okay, Jenn, well, how do I use willpower to my advantage then? How do I, if I want to, like move my body just 20 minutes a day, how do I do that when I'm thinking I just have no willpower?
Yeah. So to your point, recognize that the expectation of having willpower in certain moments is what's misguided, right? That, like, of course we don't. How could we expect anything else of ourselves? So, number one, as you said, right, let's just bring this back and refocus and say, okay, of course that's what I'm experiencing right now. So, what I need to do is, right? So, I want to go through a few things that can replenish our willpower, and then we can habit hack our way to adding those things into our days, right? So, as we were talking about with low blood sugar, number one, eating quality nutrition, protein, fiber, quality fat, regularly enough to keep our blood sugar stable. So, let's avoid going long periods of time without fuel. Um, Interestingly, self-awareness evolved because it helps self-regulation. So even if we can just start to be aware of what's happening, it is like newfound control. Accountability is a big one. Now, that could be to a coach like me or Emily, right? It could be to a buddy, some sort of accountability. Like, I'm not a big make declarations on social media kind of person, but if that helps you have some accountability, go for it, right? You mentioned this before, movement, activity, exercise can replenish our cup. So when we feel like we've got nothing, could we find 5 minutes to not sit down, 10 minutes to move around? You know, breathe some air, get some oxygen in us, you know? Um, my favorite one that people always overlook is like gratitude and charity or generosity. So this actually kind of goes back to like the prisoner thing with the courts, because the judge was all about how do I protect myself, right? Inherently, generosity and charity force us to think outside ourselves. If we're thinking outside ourselves, it is inherently a signal to our physiology that we are safe. Because if we are not safe, the only thing we think about is ourselves. So, could you spend an extra second to hold the door open for somebody? Could you buy the coffee of the person behind you? Notice what happens then. This actually improves our willpower. And then another one is certainly just distraction, right? So the classic study on this one is, and you guys have all probably heard it, it was like the study with kids and the marshmallows, and they put a marshmallow in front of them. And then they're like, if you leave it here, I can't remember if it's like 7 or 10 minutes, but like if you wait and you don't eat it, you'll get a second marshmallow and you can eat both. But if you eat this one, you're not going to get another one. Well, the kids who were able to wait out the time period distracted themselves. They counted, they played with their shoelaces, they looked at the ceiling, like they distracted themselves to pass the time. So sometimes for us, right, distraction, just getting past that one moment can be really helpful. Gamifying something, right? This is sort of similar to like the accountability piece, but like make a game out of it, right? All of a sudden there's something bigger going on and we have a little more willpower there, right? But I think the thing that's most powerful and that fits so seamlessly into everything you talk about, Emily, is that in all the research, the people who use willpower most effectively are the people who use willpower to create habits, because it's the habits that allow things to happen anyway. And then we have something left in that cup when we need it.
There you go. That's the end of the show. That's all we got to know.
Right. Mic drop. Right.
Mic drop. Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you mentioned, being self-aware and looking at these different areas, because I don't think people listening realize, oh, I can create willpower just by, like you said, like just paying for someone's coffee, or like I know if I compliment someone because I genuinely like their purse or something, like it makes it, you see them smile and you're like, okay, it makes, yeah, I feel good too telling that person something. And it drives a little bit more momentum mentally and thus physically with yourself, and creates that willpower. So it's not just something that we're born with, or we have to like work to just replenish each night with hopefully a good night's rest, like you mentioned, but we have to intentionally be aware, like, I don't have willpower to start this habit of, an hour of a workout a day, but I have the capacity to do 5 minutes. How else can I build up my willpower over time? So maybe I could work up to 20 minutes. I could work up to 30 minutes and lean into, habit strategies to actually do it at first with like a habit loop, and really lean into the other end of that loop with, as far as like the reward, like, I feel really dang good on the other side here. Look, I have so much energy. My leggings are fitting looser. And that's going to give you the willpower to keep doing it over and over until it is a habit and you don't think about it. You just do it.
Yeah. And I think there's a distinction too to be made about motivation, right? And getting started. Because I think a lot of times, like, we're we're all sort of waiting for like lightning to strike and for us to want to get up and work out or want to eat the vegetable. Like, it's fine that you don't crave a carrot, right? But we're thinking that what's lacking is our willpower to eat the carrot, right? Similar to willpower, I think we've all been fed like a load of BS when it comes to motivation. And so the thing that I want everybody to recognize is that motivation isn't what comes first. Motivation is what comes after, when you realize how good you feel, when you realize the difference in your energy, when you realize the difference in your sleep, how your clothes are fitting, and all those things. So what actually comes first is, unfortunately, some discipline. The discipline, repeating, our objective is actually to get into momentum, as you mentioned. So we use discipline to get into momentum. The momentum creates motivation. So in recognizing that, what we actually want to do right now is say, okay, I need to build into my day 5 minutes twice a day to do something to replenish my willpower, right? If that's what we decide we need. So we're going to block the 5 minutes in our calendar, maybe, sometime in the morning and sometime later in the day. And then in that little time block in your calendar, put a list of things to choose from in there, right? We talked about a lot of things. What works today may not work tomorrow, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're broken. There's nothing wrong. We just need to have a few things, to choose from, so that if we try something and it didn't really do the trick today, we've got another option in there, right? So if we build this into the calendar in some way, we start to create some momentum in this thing happening. And then we start to see the outcome of doing it. And we get the motivation to keep doing it.
That's right. That's right. Like you said, that takes discipline at first. And I love the habit hack of just putting like 2 5-minute little cues on your calendar to pop up and be like, bloop, it's time to pick one of these activities. For a lot of my clients, when I create them customized habit loops, a lot of them work from a computer all day. They're stressed. I'm like, I want you to stand up if you're not already and just like shake your whole body and like work out like the nervous system and like get your
Yes.
blood flowing and feel good, or breathe, or like go send like a funny meme to like your husband or your girl text group to just like, ah, that was funny, haha, and replenish your willpower to
Yeah.
doing the things. And it doesn't have to take long at all. I'm so glad that you mentioned just 5 minutes because that seems doable.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is called 30 30 30. It's a way to get more physical movement in the day. And it's essentially 3 different moves. You do 30 reps of each one. I do these bonus episodes on my show. So there's one called Nutrition Nugget 30 30 30. I created like a few different examples, right? So it could be like, I think the classic is like 30 squats, 30 push-ups, 30 crunches, right? You could also do like 30 leg lifts, 30 arm circles, 30 side bends. Like you could do it entirely sitting in a chair, right? But 3 things, 30 reps of each. I did a few different varieties. They all took me less than 2 minutes. And you don't have to change your clothes and you don't get sweaty and all those things. So, like, if that's what happens in the 2 minutes that you have between now and when you have to leave the house, or the 2 minutes before the next Zoom starts, right? Because we are never more productive than when we go, what can I get done in the next 2 minutes before I have to do this thing, right? Do it then. The 30, 30, 30. It adds up. And all of a sudden, your energy when you show up to that thing, you'll notice.
That's so good. We do something, it's so silly, called pee squats. So every time you go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, do 10 squats. If we're staying hydrated, that can really add up throughout the day, right? And it's just that compound effect, right? It adds up over time. And I think it's really just rewiring those neural pathways in your brain, right, Jen? Where it's like, I am doing something. I want to be a person that moves my body. These small little tiny habits are helping me do that, because that's triggering like I'm doing something, because something's always better than nothing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? Like we try,
Right.
right?
Well, and we've been taught that it doesn't count unless, right? Unless it's long enough, unless it's intense enough, unless, right? I want to remind everybody, part of why we talk about movement is because in our modern lives, it's not human to sit all day, right? Okay, it's also not human to sit all day and go berserk for 1 hour. So truly, what is human is small bits of movement regularly, right? We look at the blue zones, the parts of the world where people live the longest. It's one of the major things that they have in common. Movement is just part of their day. It's part of their ordinary lives. So I'm actually a bigger fan of 10 minutes here and there all throughout the day than that 1 hour where you go hog wild.
That's so much more sustainable. And if anyone's never watched that, go watch it. I think it's on Netflix, isn't it? I did an episode on it because I watched
The blue
the
zones.
Blue
Yeah,
Zone.
there's
Yeah.
books, there's a Netflix that,
Oh my
episodes.
God.
Yeah.
When it was and they weren't going doing like hour-long like boot camp classes. Like they were just living their lives. Like it was just
Yep.
part of their lifestyle, which is what we want to get here to this point, right? We're training for a life. We're not trying to white knuckle our way through it. I love these little ways to fill up your little cup of willpower in really simple ways. This feels really sustainable and really graceful, and room for pivoting each day as life just be lifing sometimes,
Right. Exactly.
Life just be
Exactly.
lifing. So, Jen, I love this conversation so much. It's very timely, and I hope everyone's able to use some of these habit hacks you shared today to create some tiny little ways to create more willpower in your day and create some really sustainable habits to help you feel your best from the inside out. Where can everyone connect with you and find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. It's such a great conversation. I
Good.
feel like we could talk forever.
Oh, yeah.
So all social media, I am at Jenn Trepeck, JennTrepeck. My website is A Salad with a Side of Fries. Podcast is Salad with a Side of Fries. Any platform that works for you, send a message. I love nothing more than hearing from you most of all. So also on my website, there'll be a little pop-up for a freebie for you all. That is, it's not what to eat, it's how to eat. Because you don't need us to tell you to eat a cucumber over a Twix, right? But how do we eat the Twix so that it doesn't impact us the same way it might right now? So go grab that download. You're going to want it.
I love it so much. Well, we will link all that in the show notes, including Jenn's show. Make sure to go listen and leave her a review while you're there as well. But Jenn, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, we could have just keep talking, but maybe for another day, maybe for another episode. Thank you so much for coming on the show and enlightening us today. I so appreciate you.
Well, likewise, Emily, thanks so much for having me.
Jenn, thank you so much for this important conversation. And my dear listeners, I hope you just feel seen and know, again, like we always say here, it's not your fault. Your habits haven't been working. We just have to do them differently. And with all of those tabs open and the millions of decisions it feels like we're making consciously and subconsciously throughout the day, I really hope you take to heart what Jenn shared with us today in order to replenish your willpower so it's easy to make the healthier choices for you so you can train for life. You can have more energy for your kids, your spouse, your job. You can lose the brain fog and be on it for work and just be more patient and present and more confident in your own body, mind, soul, all the above. So make sure to go to the show notes. You'll be able to connect with Jenn there and go listen to her podcast as well. But as always, because I know you got a lot of tabs open, you're maybe doing a few other things, habit stacking, listening to this podcast, I want to give you my 3 biggest takeaways for you to take action. So the first takeaway that I think is really important to note, we make a lot of food decisions throughout the day. I know with food, there's so much diet culture mentality that we've been exposed to. We do a lot of emotional eating. We lack the time. You have picky eaters in your family. There's a lot of food decisions you're making subconsciously, right? And I loved the example that Jenn gave because it was such a light bulb moment for me, and I hope it was for you. I wanted to repeat it for you. She mentioned that breakfast is easier than dinner. Well, why is that? It's the start of your day. You have less decision fatigue at that time. You're not as depleted. So really think about that. So breakfast is usually easy, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to pick something healthy. I'm going to have like 30 grams of protein. I'm going to feel satiated. And then as the day goes on, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go to Chick-fil-A. Like I can't even. I have been there. But a lot of times we're not fueling ourselves properly throughout the day, and that leads to low blood sugar, you're ravenous, and you have no self-control. So again, you're fighting against physiological things going on in your body. You're hungry, you need something to eat ASAP. You're not going to sit there and like make a meal, right? That's why we have to think about some habits in ahead of time to make sure we have nutritious food easy and ready to go, right? We always talking about protein here for that fact. That way you're not ravenous. So keep some chopsticks in your purse and your car. I am a big fan of that. I always do hard-boiled eggs throughout the week, so I have a quick protein source to keep me satiated until I'm able to get to a meal. So, but I think that's important to note and just have that light bulb moment. Hey, maybe that's why I'm not like making the healthiest choices for myself throughout the day. I'm hangry. I'm hangry. So create some habits to help set you up for that. We've talked about that plenty of times here on this show. Next is just really thinking about self-awareness, right? You're like, I am lacking willpower for this cookie right now. I just don't have the urge or motivation or any of the above to work out. Well, dig a little deeper. Why is that? And think of some habits to replenish your willpower, right? Like we talked about just quality nutrition to keep your blood sugar stable. Jenn also mentioned accountability. Have like a workout buddy or work out with a coach, someone like me, or join the Training for Life app. Movement. I tell you what, this is my favorite habit. I guarantee you exercise will replenish your willpower. 5-10 minutes. Doesn't have to be big, girl. Big time willpower booster there. Gratitude, generosity, distraction, gamify it. This will all help replenish your willpower. But if you're like, Emily, I don't even have the willpower to do all that, that leads me into my final and biggest takeaway is to start small. Start small with some tiny habits to replenish your willpower. Sleep, movement, what you're eating, gratitude, distraction, etc. Everything that Jenn mentioned, pick one and take 5 minutes, right? We talk about P squats a lot here. She mentioned her 30, 30, 30, like for example, 3 things, 30 reps of each exercise, and create that habit loop. So the cue is to actually like have some type of cue. Maybe it's workout clothes or a reminder on your calendar. The routine is to actually do it, but more importantly is the reward. We talk about the reward part about a habit loop so much here because it's the most vital step and it's the step most of us skip. Lean into the energy it produces. Notice it. Become self-aware. Like, gosh, the rest of the evening, I was just so patient with my kids after I went on a walk before they got home from school. Like, why was that? Well, girl, it's probably because you went for a walk and cleared your mind, right? Motivation is not always going to be there. You have to be disciplined with at least one of these tiny habits. It's going to eventually create the habit, build the momentum. Then the motivation will be there because you have literally changed your neural pathways in your head. You leaned into that reward where you're going to crave it because you're like, girl, I just feel so much better when I do ABC habit. So this conversation was so great, and I hope you took lots of notes and you're ready to replenish your own willpower as well. I know I am. If you need some help thinking of some other habits to help you do this, I want you to go grab my Healthy Habits cheat sheet. I share about 60 habits on there. They're really simple that you can do to replenish your own willpower. And I even give you the cliff notes, if you will, on creating a habit loop like we just talked about to help reinforce that habit. It's linked in the show notes. You can also go grab it at bit.ly/healthy habits cheat sheet. Jenn, again, thank you so much for this conversation, girl. I feel my willpower has been boosted already. I hope you all become more self-aware of what is depleting you and how you can do these tiny, simple little habits to replenish your willpower. Remember, you're not failing. You're not lacking willpower. You just need to become more self-aware and find what you need to do to become your healthiest and replenish that willpower. You so got this, and I'll see you in the next episode. I am so proud of you for listening to another episode of Habit Hack Your Health. I don't want you to just feel inspired, but I want you to go take action. To help you do that, go grab a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app. This is habit-based fitness programming that you won't find anywhere else. A full fitness library with workouts programmed around what we need as midlife moms, and habit trainings and accountability community to help you stay consistent no matter what season of life that you're in. Go to trainingforlifeapp.com to start your free 7-day trial, and let's start training for life together. I'm so rooting for you, girl. I'll see you in the next episode.